everyone, and welcome to today's Whiteboard Wednesday series. Today we're going to acknowledge the fact that we're selling in a sea of sameness, much like many of you are. There's a million different tools and data providers, and we all sort of look alike. So I'm going to advise you on how to properly evaluate a data provider to find the one that is right for you. Stay tuned. All right, so I'm going through a pretty common experience right now that I think most of us have. I'm in the middle of an evaluation of 3 different sales coaching tools, looking at 3 different vendors, and the harsh reality for those vendors is that they all sort of look alike to me. I see a couple pros and cons here and there, but nothing really drastic that makes it an obvious choice. But I know that experience, or me feeling that way, is just infuriating to the vendors, right? Because they're going to be sitting there thinking, Patrick, it's so obvious that we're the right choice, and here's why, because this critical thing you're not getting. And the reality is we live in a world, all of us now, where we're, again, selling in the sea of sameness. We all have so many competitors. There's a proliferation of technology that's out there, and to our buyers, we all sort of look alike. Rather than putting the onus on the vendors themselves to better differentiate themselves, I actually think there also needs to be an onus on the buyers to do better homework. We get sort of exhausted by the tools and we give up too early. And so I've committed myself to better researching these coaching tools. And it occurred to me that perhaps I could help you better learn how to evaluate a data provider from someone who's inside the industry. What are the things that you should really look for? And so I'm actually going to start with how do people do it today and what I think is sort of wrong with it. The most common way people are going to evaluate a data provider is they're going to take a demo of the product and then they're going to go pull up Tom's Auto Body Shop, they're a client of ours, or pull up Jane's thrift store, and I want to see if you've got Tom or Jane in the profile and if your data is accurate. Look, I get why you would want to do that. It's a quick and easy way to see if they've got good data, but the reality is you're just getting really bad results. You're going to end up picking the luckiest data provider, not the best data provider. Nobody is ever going to give you 100% of a company. They're going to give you a piece of that company. The question is how large a piece and how accurate a piece. So that's number one way not to evaluate a data provider. Here's the other most common way. People want to do it in sort of an RFP style. They go, we need this many companies and this many contacts, and we want these data points. And they just send it to you, and they go, do you have it? Do you have it? Okay, you have more, you win. That's not really great either, because data is not a commodity. If a record is inaccurate, it's no good. And we've all been burned by bad data before, so we've all lived that. And it's no longer a world. You don't have to suffer with bad data. You can do better than that if you look into it. The trick is to really test the quality of the data. Don't just stop at the quantity of the data or the data points that they're supplying. So if that's the case, again, how does someone inside the industry think that you should really go about evaluating a data provider and doing your homework? To me, I think it's a pretty relatively easy 3-step process, but it does require some work. Step number 1 is figure out what data points you need. And look, anyone buying data for sales and marketing efforts is going to need some basic information. You need company data and firmographic data. Presumably you want to know company names, the industries they're in, probably their size, their geography, a few other basic data points. Then you need contact data. Contact data is often the most important piece of the data. You need email addresses that work. You might need physical location. You might want social links to LinkedIn and Twitter or Facebook. And you want direct dial phone numbers if you're running a sales team. You want your reps to be able to call and reach those people, not spend all day in the gatekeepers. But then interestingly, there's sort of another category, right? There's specialized. Every business is a little different. A lot of a specialized data point might be, does it matter to you to know if a company is using a certain technology, technographic data? Do you integrate well with that technology, or do you compete against that technology? You might also care about what are the number of locations that this business has. The more locations, the better for you. Or you might care about the number of hospital beds that a hospital has. There's a lot of specialized data points that you might need. So look for vendors that can supply them if that data point is critically important to you. You also, though, then need to prioritize this, right? Because there's no vendor, us included, who's going to be a perfect one-size-fits-all. If you're looking for a silver bullet, I'm sorry to tell you it doesn't exist. You can only get most of what you want. Make sure you get what you need. Okay, so we figure out the data points we need. We go look for the vendors that have them, or at least have most of them. Then we want to go look at coverage and quantity, right? The more companies we can target, the more contacts we can target, the better. But it's also hand in hand with that. It's incredibly important that the quality of the data is there. And this, I think, is where people really lose sight of it, right? They're checking quality by either checking out one company and making a judgment based on a sample size of one, or they're just not really checking at all. What you should do for quality is really pretty easy. Get a sample list. Get a sample list of 100 or as many records as that data provider will give you in sort of a free trial, and then run an email campaign against it and call through it. That takes a little bit of work. That takes the most work. Calling through a list of 100 or 200 or 300 could take a rep all day. If you're the decision maker, it might be worth your time and effort to actually call it yourself. But it is incredibly important that you test the accuracy of that data. Because if it's not accurate, we know it's not going to be any good. We know we're not going to get the results that we need. So match quality with coverage and quantity. When you think about coverage and the number of companies you're targeting, it's also important to check that data. A lot of data providers are going to have like Hilton Corporate, but then they're also going to have listed as companies Hilton locations. The Hilton in Seattle, the Hilton in Washington, D.C., in San Francisco. Most of the time, buying decisions aren't being made at these sort of separate locations. They're only being made at corporate. So those counts can get inflated. It can be the same with Outback Steakhouses or any other sort of franchise. You can get all of these locations being counted as multiple companies. You really need to dig into these numbers when they're reported. And the way to dig into them, again, is to look at the quality of the data. So look, at the end of the day, if you do these three things, figure out the data that you need, figure out the coverage and the quantity of that data, and then most importantly, check the quality, then you can feel confident you've done a good evaluation. Trust your choice.